Okay, good morning, everyone. We're gonna welcome to the Tuesday morning surge training. We're gonna finish prospecting and marketing today. As a reminder from yesterday morning, we're going to continue to talk about what each one is, what prospecting is, what marketing is, the differences and how they work together, and ultimately help you develop and build your own marketing plan, marketing and prospecting plan to help you in all your endeavors with buyers and sellers around a farm, around different media and types. So with that, we'll jump right in. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to finish a few slides from the 7 levels of communication before we go on this morning. And quick reminder of the 7 levels of communication. 7 different categories, starting with advertising at the bottom, direct mail, electronic communications, handwritten notes, phone calls, events and seminars, and one-on-one meetings. The left shows you as you go higher, the greater impact you have on the individual, more likelihood that you have a transaction because you're communicating directly with a person and not just reaching out. The bottom 3, informational zone, more marketing centered, more about getting out who you are, what you do, and why they should work with you. The top 3, the influential zone, that's when you're usually talking directly with someone or a small group of people at worst, and you are more connecting directly with them and probably closer to the transaction, or definitely closer to the transaction than you are in the informational zone. If you need a transaction right away, if you want to focus on the next 30, 60, 90 days, getting 1, 2, 3 transactions, you want to focus most of your time on those top 3. Handwritten notes are also effective, but they're kind of like an in-between there, as you can see on the scale. As you focus on those top 3 in the next 30, 60, 90 days to get a transaction, you cannot forget building the base at the bottom. And so they're all important, they're all necessary, but I need you to understand how they work individually and how they work together. And with that, we talked about the bottom 3 yesterday. We're going to finish talking about the top 3 today, right? And the first one is phone calls. Obviously, something we've been working on a lot in Surge, building your skills, building your habits, and building your ability to pick up the phone and generate a listing, pick up the phone and generate a buyer, or pick up the phone and generate a referral. Those are the 3 main items that you need to be thinking of when you are on the phone and talking to your sphere, past clients, or just mets. All right. So remember, on a phone call reluctance is simply when you keep yourself from doing what you need to do, which is call the people you know. And if you're reluctant, you're being selfish and thinking about yourself. Remember this from yesterday. If you think about their needs and helping them, it is easy to pick up the phone, especially in this time. You don't have a lot of resources out there explaining to people what's going on in real estate, what's going on in the economy, what is available to them as a buyer or a seller, what's available in the market, what the market is doing next. I hope you all listen to my Wednesday evening market updates, because that's exactly what I try to do there, is fill in those voids. And that call, that presentation that I give every week is exactly for all of you and indirectly for all of your clients, because I know these are the questions that they are asking. And so just think of that. They are out there with questions, their needs. CAR just released, they released a survey, and they said 42% of the homeowners that they spoke to were considering selling or thinking about selling now. So just remember that 42% of the people surveyed by CAR right now that own a home have at least had a thought of, what if we sold? So you've got almost a 1 in 2 chance of, when you pick up the phone and you call someone, you are filling their need, not yours. You're filling their need to know what is going on. What do I need to know? How can I help you? And that's hopefully the mindset you have to help you get over any call reluctance you might have right now. All right. The first and 10 calls, we talked about that briefly yesterday. You do these as soon as you get to the office or when you start your day, each day. Some of the examples are people that you're showing houses to that week, referral sources, cooperating agents, recent networking contacts, team members, potential clients, and so on. Those are the 10 most important calls. Eat the frog, get them out of the way as soon as you start your day. Why are you calling? Go into the call with a heart to help. They may need a recommendation for a vendor, job recommendation, or whatever. They often need things other than your primary reason for calling, which is to list or to sell. Take time after the call to send them what they need. When calling, forget about thinking of how this person can help you grow your business. If the conversation goes there, great. But your object is to reassign yourself at least one action item when it's over, just like your one-on-ones. Focus your attention on finding something you can do for them by the end of the call. This is the law of reciprocity. I said that wrong. But always the idea, you're not going to get a listing every time you pick up the phone. But if you leave an item of value, if you give them one more reason to take your next phone call and remind them that you are their resource, their source for whatever they need when they need it, you will be that when they're ready to buy or sell. Hour of power, at least 4 hours per week for focused phone calls to people in your database. Those you have worked with in the past, networking contacts, friends, family, anybody you don't have to call but should. We've been doing this pretty religiously for the last 5 weeks during our 10 to 11 hour of power. So again, building a muscle, building a habit, building something that you do every single day. You accumulate the calls, you increase your skills, you increase your capacity, and eventually you increase your business. And then that's part of it. Get better. Rank yourself after each call 0 to 10. 0, hung up on you, to 10, like reconnecting with your best friend. You want people to see your number and be excited to answer the phone. Always remember, the more you grade yourself, the more you are focused on improving, you will achieve it at some level. So don't be afraid of that. All right, remember that communicating with every person of a strand of a referral source is important. This will help you reach the deals that are in your sphere faster and increase your sphere at the same time. So what does that mean? For example, Joe refers Jeff, who introduced you to Cindy, who recommended you to Janet. You would call Cindy with an update on Janet. Then you would call Jeff to express appreciation for connecting you to Cindy. Then you would call Joe to let him know what has happened. There is enormous power to this subtle strategy. These are the calls you can make in your hour of power. And you can see how you're calling with each with a purpose, you're calling in gratitude, and each time you're connecting, you're growing the opportunity to get another referral, growing your sphere exponentially, because every person at the end of the line knows someone else that they can refer you to. And then you keep constantly reminding them of how they're helping you, how you're helping them. Remember, it starts with Jeff, it ends with Janet, but if Janet is happy with your services, that connects all the way back through Cindy and Jeff and Joe, then you're building a really tight network of referrals. And this is a great tip for you to remember. And when you say, I ran out of people to call, I always kind of grin to myself because I know that's not true. There's always a reason to call someone else. Usually when agents tell me that, they're running out of strangers to call to ask if they can sell their house. And that's what they mean when they tell me they ran out of people to call. All right, so great tip here. If you're not doing this, try to incorporate it into your business. Now, also remember, if you haven't learned to ask for referrals, these are just extra calls. So this is really, really effective once you learn to ask for referrals, once you learn the frog or the frog technique to want people, have people wanting you to call them and talk to you for its 2 to 3 minutes. And then you must be able to ask for referral. Who do you know the next 90 days is thinking of buying or selling? Who do you know that is thinking of buying or selling and doesn't know what to do during this COVID period? Always ask. If you don't ask, you're assuming they know you're a realtor. You're assuming you want more business, and they are not thinking that way. They are not thinking real estate 24/7 the way you are. So great tip, but it's only part of it. Have the skills, underlying skills, and the underlying strategy to make this really work for you. Many of you on the phone right now, I recognize, have told me in the past, you get your business from referrals. And sometimes that slows down. Some of you who have been in the business for a long time, a lot of the people who you relied on for referrals are now, have already moved out and already into their forever properties. And you kind of wistfully say, well, I used to get a lot of referrals. Well, remember, those people have friends, those people have sons and daughters, those people have connections who are still in that beginning to middle phase of their home buying and selling journeys. And if you learn to ask for the referrals properly, if you use this kind of technique, you will reignite your old referral sources. So please practice this. All right, one-on-one meetings. Again, a little harder right now, but doesn't mean they're impossible. There's nothing wrong with a Zoom meeting. My 10-year-old has had Zoom play dates, so you can have one-on-one meetings as a professional, I am sure, right? So mostly for once we get back into our more normal, so but still nice to learn it now, and techniques you can practice and try to implement online right now. So one-on-one meetings, most important hours of your week, you need to prepare for them. Do internet research on people before you meet them. You'd be surprised what you learn. Hopefully you still want to meet them once you learn what they tell you on their social profiles. Once you're there, remember Frog, about them, not you. Remember Frog is just like Ford. Different acronyms, kind of the same thing. Ask what their biggest challenges are. You're there to help them, so you need to know what they need. For example, when I meet with some of the top producing agents in our office and on one-on-one meetings, I remind them that our next meeting, when they ask me, what are we going to meet about? I say, what's your biggest issue? What's the biggest problem you need to solve? And I do that because I learned that here. Because when someone asks you, why are we meeting again? And you tell them, because we're going to solve the biggest issue you have, they're not going to tell you no. They're going to be really interested in that next meeting. And they're going to be really interested in how you can help them. Of course, you've proven in the past you can help and you're a resource. So when you make that offer of what are your biggest challenges, what is what you need, and that's why we're meeting, they're always going to take the meeting, right? Match their natural pace of conversation. If not a fast talker, then slow down. If not a slow talker, speed up. This is a tried and true methodology. The more you look and talk and sound and act like they do, the more they're going to like you, because at core, we all like ourselves. And so when someone mirror matches us, we tend to elevate what we think of them, even if we don't know them completely yet. End your one-on-one meetings with one or both of these questions. How can I help you, and what can I do for you? So your action item is to leave every one-on-one with an assignment that you will get done by the end of that day. You will also put it into your CRM. You're learning about their wants and needs. You want to make sure that that is noted so you don't forget. This is one of those things, if you ask them, how can I help you? And they tell you, and then you don't deliver, that's a major no-no. So don't try to remember it, write it down somewhere. Add a power note to follow up. Take a gift to the meeting, a relevant book, or maybe a downloaded version, as it will be cheaper, or some other item of value. We'll skip the creating a networking stack because that requires you sitting in restaurants, and that is no longer available to us now in the county. When that opens up, we'll go more into this tactic. All right, 3 most referral generating questions. Here they are. What is your biggest challenge right now? And then do not guess how you can help that person. Do not assume. Ask them. They will tell you. Even if it's not truly their biggest need, that's what they're telling you your biggest need. And if you solve it, the next time you meet them, you're going to ask them, what is your biggest challenge right now? And eventually you'll get to the core of what they are looking for, right? Next one. So what have you tried so far? Do not want to suggest what they already tried. So you need to know what they've already tried. You maybe tweak what they did before or add to it and help them in this way. The next one, what are you going to do next? I'm not an expert. You are showing respect. The answer is deep down inside of them. You do not know, so have a conversation about what they're going to do next. Or they may self-discover the answer themselves and talk their way through it as you ask them. They solve it on their own because you are there. They think you solved it, and tell others how great you are. So real quick, easy things. And most of us, if we're used to going out, talking with our friends, talking with our families, having engaged conversations, most of us do this at some level, even subconsciously. But I don't want you to rely on the subconscious here. I want it to be very overt. I want you to be intentional and purposeful in making sure you answer these three questions when you're talking to someone. So it builds into them that idea that you're a problem solver, you're a resource, you are someone that is willing and able to help. And that means they will reciprocate. How can I help you? Tell them I can move anyone from anywhere. Who do you know who's looking to move? Who do you know is looking to buy or sell in the next 90 days? Give them specific clients or things they can help you with, right? That means you can open up their referral network. And so again, most of us at some level do this at some way, but I don't want it to be accidental. I don't want it to be subconscious. I want it to be very overt, very conscious. Remember, you're going to these meetings, you're going to these calls with a purpose, and that is to generate and elicit referrals from this source, if not direct business from them. So don't wing it. Don't see where the conversation goes. Always lead and guide the conversation that's going to lead to what you want. All right, your time. This is another variation of things we've covered in the past. Again, it comes up over and over and over because it is so important and so powerful. Vision exercise. Imagine your perfect workday and write it out from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed. Break it down hour by hour and describe exactly what you are going to do for your perfect workday. Oops, sorry about that. 80% of your time needs to be in an influential zone on the phone or in front of people. Only way to achieve this is to time block your day on an hourly basis. It's like school. Math the first hour, biology the second hour. In this case, 3 courses take 80% of your day. It's all activities in the influential zone. Again, if you're new, if you're restarting or kickstarting your business, you might not have enough meetings to spend that, but that is your goal. You may have to spend more time in practice. You may spend more time in training. You may spend more time in the informational zones to begin with, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there. You have to grow and have a plan to spend 80% of your time in this influential zone. Schedule times to return phone calls and emails first, 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. as an example. Next, an hour of white space, open time, catch up on paperwork, take a walk, return extra calls, grab some coffee, take a break. At least 4 hours per week for focused phone calls to people in your database. Those you have worked with in the past, networking contacts, friends, family, anybody you don't have to call but should. This does not include returning calls. That's not part of this power hour, okay? And then your first and 10 calls, we've discussed those. So block the time, start to create the habits, start to create the schedule, and you will find yourself moving and becoming more natural, becoming more powerful and impactful in your day each day, and reaching the goals you set for yourself. The 4 rituals, here's another habit builders that help you get into this zone. These will prevent your life from getting out of control no matter how busy you get. Your morning ritual, affirmations, blessing book, personal preparation, and exercise, a morning run, lift weights, audio. If you recall Keith Vong's presentation to us, he talked about his morning ritual, his affirmations, and it's how you start your day. It's how you brainwash your own brain to thinking, I'm going to have a powerful, impactful day. This is when the day hasn't gotten to you. This is when the things that happen in life haven't gotten to you. You set the stage, you set the mood, you prepare for what kind of day you want to have. Once it starts, the whirlwind will hit you. But if at least you started on a strong base, you have a better shot of ignoring the whirlwind. You have a better shot of getting through the day as you planned, as you prepared, as you expect, and as you visualized. All right, so the pre-leave ritual, once you're finished with your day, get your desk in order, write down your first and 10 calls for the next day, check your time blocking for the next day, make sure you're scheduled out and have a powerful day ready for the next day. And then finally, pre-sleep ritual, reading, visualization, praying, stretching, something. Again, this is a signal to your body, you're done, you had a great day, you accomplished what you set out to do, and your time to rest and prepare for the next day. He adds here, Sunday night ritual, take a look at the entire week's schedule, make sure all your appointments are in order, make sure clothes fit the weather and arrange them in the closet right down to the socks. This is the Mark Zuckerberg phenomenon. Some of you have heard this, that a lot of the most successful people in the world, they minimize their wardrobe because they have so much control over the day. They don't want to wake up and have this, what am I going to wear today, things start blocking their brain and blocking their routine as they start each day. All right, so when you start doing all these things, there's a purpose to it. And it is because you want to get from marketer to communicator. Marketer to communicator is another way to distinguish the informational zone from the influential zone. The marketer is always in the informational zone. The communicator is always in the influential zone, talking directly to people, all right? And why do you want to understand these and make a commitment to move from marketer to communicator? You market to someone, but you communicate with your clients. You're going to build your community by communication. Your community of influence is your database. Trying to build a community by staying in the influential zone is where you want to be. Never forget, it's people who buy and nothing happens until a person says yes, and no one says yes to someone they do not trust. You have to build that trust. You need to go through your database and grade your database. Here's another example of how you can go in and talk about it. We talked about ABC buyers and sellers. These are for your referral sources. A+ ambassadors. They refer you multiple times a year. They are literally unpaid sales staff. A's are champions. They refer you on average once a year, at least once a year. Think about that. If you have 5 to 10 champions in your database, that means you are guaranteed 5 to 10 transactions on January 1st of each year before you do anything. Obviously, there's a lot of work built into that to get there, but a lot of realtors fail to see, because this is such a long range thing, how important and powerful it is to create these A+ ambassadors. They are just waiting for someone to start talking about real estate at a function, at their community events, so they can say, oh, you got to talk to Robert. No one knows more than he does. He's the best realtor. They're just pressed and primed and ready to give your name when they hear anyone talking about real estate. And here's a big clue. If you're married, make sure your spouse is one of those ambassadors. A lot of realtors overlook that. They think and they assume that their partner, their wife, their husband are always out there listening to others talk about real estate and immediately giving them their name. They're not. You must also create an A+ ambassador in your house. We do it with our kids. So always remember, everyone is a potential A+ ambassador for you. And when you understand what that means, that they are on average referring one buyer or seller to you each year, nothing more powerful in this business. All right, B's are your potential champions. C's are friends and families like them, but they do not send you business. D's have never sent you business, nor are they going to. D means delete. If they're a D, you want them gone, right? And remember when we talked about A, B, and C buyers and sellers, and we said your job is to convert the A's in an appointment, and your job with the B's and C's is to move them, the C's to B's, the B's to A's. Same thing here. Once you identify someone as a B, a potential champion, you want to start working with them to start helping them the way we talked in the one-on-one meetings. How can I help you? What are your needs? So they can reciprocate, and then they can become A+ ambassadors. So you trim the fat at the end. If they're a D, they're wasting your time. Eliminate them from your list. If they're a C's, get into a B. If they're a B, get into an A. And if they're A, hold on to them like your life depends on it, because it almost does. All right? Okay, so communication plan. You need to develop a communication plan for each grade in your database. And this is just an example. You can come up with your own. You can change this one, but you have to have an idea. You have to have a plan. Don't assume it's just going to happen. All right? Ambassadors deserve the most communication. If you have those yearly client appreciation events, the ambassadors always come. It doesn't mean that they bought a house from you that year. It doesn't mean that they ever bought a house from you, but you want them to feel part of your business. When you have these events, you invite if you have buyer's agents or listing agents or staff, you invite them, right? Well, invite your unpaid staff. Let them be a part of it. Let them enjoy it. Let them feel the love from you and your business. Always, always, always give them the utmost care. Call them once a month during Hour of Power and quarterly into your networking stack, which with the one-on-one meetings in a restaurant. Eventually, board of advisors meeting with all ambassadors and ask them how you can improve your service and your business. Again, they're A+ ambassadors because they act and feel like they are part of your business. So bring them in and talk about it. Champion 4 times a year. Use recurring reminders in your CRM. Make sure they are scheduled. Don't think I'll do it when the time is right. If you think that way, it won't happen, and then you'll start to lose your ambassadors. All right, your Bs. Send them guaranteed response email. The subject line, here's an example. Again, you can tweak this. What they write here is, hey, first name, have a few quick specific questions for you. Hope all is well. Wanted to touch base. I have a couple of questions for you. Could you please call me at your earliest free moment? It's not an emergency, but when you have a second, please give me a call. I promise to only take a minute or two of your time. Thank you in advance. Talk to you soon. P.S. If somebody else answers, please let them know that I need to talk to you, right? This email will cause them to give you a call. When they call, you're going to ask how they're doing, what's new in their lives, the forward of the frog technique. Then you're going to use the Am I the Chosen One script. After that conversation, you will know if they are A, C, or even a D. We'll send you that script later today. By the time you're done, you should have no more B's in your database because you're using this technique, you elevate them to A's. Your friends and family who you choose to stay in touch with, or they will be deleted because they have an established relationship with another professional in your industry. So this is how you create this plan to reward your A+, your champions, and then create B's into A's, C's into B's into A's, and eliminate your D's. I can't stress enough how important it is right now during this COVID time when you're very limited on the different things you can do. If you are limited in thinking you only have a small database, it's because you haven't championed and built this kind of habit. And this is the best time to do it. And remember, at some point, everyone's going to give up on waiting for open houses. Everyone's going to give up on waiting for knocking on doors. Everyone's going to give up on waiting for what we've done in the past. So the sooner you get started on this, the bigger head start you'll have. Someone else's B is also your B. If they do this first and elevate them to an A, you've lost them. Someone else's C is your C. If they elevate them to a B, they are ahead of the game and are building a network that is going to be harder and harder for you to break into in the future. So start this now. All right. All right. Relationship to referrals. A little bit of reflecting on what we just talked about. Use of power words. Never say referral. Instead, say introduce me to those they love and trust, neighbors, friends, family members. We talk in terms of referrals. Never refer to them as referrals. A referral is an emotionally charged endorsement to put their reputation on the line for you. Easier for someone to introduce you than refer you. Birds of a feather flock together. People buying or selling within a neighborhood know others interested in doing the same thing. So ask. A reminder, something we forget, this includes the people you're currently working with. If they are buying and you're helping them buy or sell a property, everyone that they meet, everyone they talk to is always asking them, how's the search going? How's the listing going? And so they will open up channels because some people are asking them because they're doing the same thing or thinking of doing the same thing. So this is a reminder to push that door open. It is there. Everyone that knows them is talking to them about buying or selling. You don't know them yet, but you will if you follow these practices, all right? All right, a couple of great scripts that you use in this example. We'll read them really quickly. Again, I'll email these to you later today and perhaps Next week, we'll incorporate them into our script practice. But the great people script. Hi, I know how important your time is these days. I'm looking to grow my business and I want to grow my business with great people like you. Something I found, sorry, I want to make sure I'm still recording. Something I found is that great people tend to know great people. So with that in mind, out of all the people you know, who is the next person you know who will be buying or selling or investing in real estate? All right, it's an easy, simple script, tried and true. You've heard it a million times, and you've heard it a million times because it works. After you ask, give them time to answer. Don't be afraid of silence in conversation. Let silence help you. So many people get uncomfortable and feel compelled to say something. Don't do it. Let them speak first. All right. The reticular activating system or RAS script. Example, someone who buys a specific car all of a sudden notices all of those cars on the road. Particular part of your brain, the reticular activating system or RAS, controls what you focus on. But real estate, say this. Mr. and Mrs. Client, now that you're buying a house, you have supersonic hearing and X-ray vision for real estate. You're going to notice that dozens of people around you are buying, selling, or investing. I ask that when you see, hear, or meet a person who mentions real estate, that you give them my card and give me a call. My promise to you is that I'll respond quickly to determine how I can help them. Would you do that for me, please? All right, so again, remember, those people around them that know the people you're actively working with don't know you yet, but they know they're looking. They know they're in the market, and they talk about that. So don't assume it's going to happen naturally. Open the door that you know is there. Use this script or something like it consistently and constantly. A reminder, when you're working with the client, the best time to use this script is any time that they're happy with anything you did. And I don't mean that you negotiated $100,000 savings. I mean that you had a meeting and you showed up on time. Anytime they express something that they appreciate about what you're doing at any given time, that's when it's got to be like a loaded gun. You've got to have this script ready. They smile at you. They're happy before they leave. They thank you for taking them out and showing them houses or whatever. Boom. Now that you're buying a house, you have supersonic hearing and X-ray vision for real estate. You're going to notice that dozens of people around you are buying, selling, or investing. I ask that when you see, hear, or meet a person who mentions real estate, that you give them my card and give me a call. My promise to you is that I will respond quickly to determine how I can help them. Will you do that for me, please? And say yes. They're happy. They like you. You just ask them a simple favor. They're going to say yes. They won't do it if you don't ask. All right. All right. So again, we'll send you these scripts, but the main idea here is these opportunities are all around you. If you feel your opportunities are limited, it's because you haven't tried and perfected these methods. Over the last 2 weeks, I've heard so many times, I've only have 100 people in my database. I only have 150 people in my database. Well, that's fine. Each one of those people has a database too. So each person that's in your database has 150 people in theirs. How do you activate it? How do you get into it? These are some of the tips to do that. All right, we talked about this yesterday. We won't go into it too much. Just a reminder, know who you are on the DISC test. If you've never taken one, take it, read it, understand it. That'll start to give you clues on who you are, number one, and then how to work with other people and identify what they are. And what this does when you take this test, not only will it tell you if you're a dominant D, but it'll tell you when you're a dominant D, this is how you like to communicate. It will tell you when you communicate with an I as a D, these are the things you need to be aware of. These are things you need to adjust and do so that you don't overpower them or you don't turn them off. So great tips, great understanding. It starts with you. You need to know who you are. I'm a high D, high C, which by the way is a very rare thing apparently. So straight to the point, driven, fast-paced, impatient, efficient, brutally honest, right? But I'm also a stickler for the rules. I comply with the rules to a fault. I love order. I love process. They can seem almost inflexible. So what that means is at the same time, I have this duality, right? I want everything to be in order. I want everything to be perfect. I want everything, but I'm so impatient as a D. I'm so driven, I'm so fast paced. Sometimes the rules aren't fast enough for me. So I will break my C dominant side and go into my D dominant side and move quickly ahead before the rules are even there. And in my head, sometimes I create the rules and then that becomes my next play. So you have to know who you are. Because I know I'm like that, but I'm dealing with I's and S's, I have to remember to slow down, be a little more patient. And so I've learned that over time, especially being a manager in real estate, because there's so many I's and there's so many S's in real estate that I've learned. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to get better and I try to understand who are they, how can I communicate with them. I can't always express my dominant D or my dominant C in a conversation or in a training or in a relationship with a client or an agent. So just a quick reminder, if you've never done it before, take it. If you take it, don't just look at your score, read it. It gives you a great idea of how you perform, how you like to act, and then it gives you tips on understanding how to identify what someone else is and how you can work better with them. All right. All right. So with that, let's dig into the next step. What is your marketing strategy? All right. So remember, we talked about identifying what marketing is, identify what prospecting is, understand the 7 levels. How do they operate together? What are differences? What are similarities? When you need to eat today, focus on the top 3, focus on the influential. But if you want a big, long-standing business that grows over time, you have to start building the base. You have to start putting the informational, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive. You know, these cold call experts, that all they do is they live in that one section of phones at the very top. Everyone that has ever lived with a phone is a potential client, but they don't ask for referrals. They don't build a business. They're not setting up a long-term strategy. So every day they have to wake up, pick up the phone, and dial, and it can be very successful, but it's draining. It wears you out over time, and so I really recommend it, especially if you need a deal right away. But you have to build a strategy on how do I pull back from this? How do I incorporate this as part of my business, but it's not my only business? All right. So what's your strategy? Let's start to build one. All right. So understand these 5 basic points. Everything you do in building your marketing strategy has to have these things. Number 1, promote yourself. It seems very self-evident, but you know I struggle with this. If you put me in a corner and you ask me, what do I think of my skills? What do I think of my experience? What do I think of my abilities? I think they're top notch. I think they're probably one of, if not the best, in terms of managing agents, training agents, leading and mentoring agents. But I don't promote that. It's not my nature, right? So when it's not your nature, you have to really focus on this and remind yourself you have to promote yourself. Just because you're good doesn't mean people are going to call you. Just because you're the best agent doesn't mean they're going to call you. I was talking to an agent last week and going over their numbers and asking them if they knew how good they were, and they didn't. They had no idea. I looked at their metrics. I looked at their average sales rate, sales price, how they perform for their clients, and I asked her a simple question. And I said, if you don't understand your value, how can you sell that value to anyone else, right? And so that's at the core of promoting yourself. If you're brand new and you don't have a track record, if you don't have anything to crow about, right? I always teach, well, then you sell your brokerage, you sell your office. But the other thing is, if all you can say is no one works harder than I do, that is promoting yourself, right? Of course, that means you have to work harder than everybody else. So there's a caveat there, right? Next one is get noticed. That seems to be part and parcel of promoting yourself, but right, the first one is understanding who you are, what you do, and talking to people about it, and then making sure that they notice. Make sure they're like, oh wow, I should get to know Robert. I'm interested in real estate. I'm interested in marketing. I'm interested in training. I should get to know him, right? Then multiply your leads. This is referral building. This is repeat clients. This is a lot of different things, but always have to have in mind, multiply your leads. Everyone that notices you in section 2 needs to help you to execute in section 3 and generate more leads. Number 4, set yourself apart. This is when you have to start building the differentiator. This is when you have to start bringing quality to what you do. That's going to feed back into promoting yourself, getting noticed, and multiplying your leads. So all of these build into one another. And then the last one is stay in touch, right? If you do the first 4 and you do them well, but you don't stay in touch, you have to go back to square one each time, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to completely reinvent yourself every single day, every single week, every single month. Staying in touch will feed back into promoting yourself, getting noticed, multiplying your needs, and setting yourself apart. All right. So think about that. If you're a brand new agent just starting, you're basically stuck in number 1, trying to get to number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. If you've been in the business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but you're trying to reignite or reach a new level that you've never reached before, you're probably there because you didn't do number 5. You did the first 4, but you didn't do the first 5. All right. And that's okay. You've already proven you can do steps 1 through 4. Now we're adding step 5 to you, staying in touch, asking for referrals, asking for business, building out those referrals by using the from marketer to communicator and those techniques. And it's never too late to learn this step. Ideally, you're starting at number 1, knowing the end is in mind. And the end is you're going to start meeting people, and you're going to stay in touch and doing the 2, 3, and 4 in between. All right. So it's a great thing to print out, put in front of you, always in front of, so that you understand why you're doing what you're doing. When you, we're not doing script practice today, but when you do script practice, why are you doing that? To get better. And then you're going into your calls to promote yourself, get noticed, multiply your leads, set yourself apart, and to stay in touch. Simple. Rinse, lather, repeat. Rinse, lather, repeat. Don't do it robotically. Do it intentionally and purposefully. There's a difference, right? If you're just doing this because we assigned it, or because you're trying to build and be a part of the Intero Cupertino community, that's okay, but that's not intentional. That's not purposeful. You're not trying to get better at each level and trying to build a base that grows and grows and grows. You're just simply doing the steps. There is a difference. All right, so top 10 most effective advertising media used by top producing agents. You Google 10 different sources, you're gonna come with 10 different methods. The point here is find out what works for you. Here's just some, right? So word of mouth, that is tried and true number 1. I think in the previous Surge module, we talked about where do most agents get their business? It's from referrals. Referrals is word of mouth. Never, ever forget that. Everyone you know is your most effective business generating source. There are skills, there are methods, there's training involved in making sure you elicit that, but never forget, that's where you should get the most of your business, referrals, word of mouth. All right, for sale signs, home sale magazines, farming newsletters, newspaper classifieds or other magazines, open houses, just listed, just sold postcards, property brochures or information booklets, business cards, personal brochures. All examples, all you can still do right now. This is why I use these. If you have a big budget, you can do all of these. If you have a small budget, you can do some of these. If you have no budget, you can do number 1. Luckily for you, that is the most effective source. So I built a reputation as sometimes agents come for help, and they sometimes feel I don't understand their predicaments when they come to me and say, well, I don't have the budget, I don't have the money. And I said, that's no problem. The best source of business is free. Well, you have to have a phone to do it, but it's the word of mouth. It's asking for business from people you already know or people you've done business with in the past. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, so build your base. Always have that in mind. Everyone you talk to every single time, this is the goal. The wider your base is, the more your business will grow. If it's really, really narrow, you're reducing the effectiveness, you're reducing the chances it work. It'll still work, but it's just so narrow that it'll be intermittent. It'll be once a year, once every other year, instead of having these champions that are giving you 1 referral per year on average, right? So how do you use prospecting tools to expand your client opportunities? Communicate consistently with prospective clients. Prospects will be more likely to call you for all their real estate needs and recommend you to family and friends. It has to be consistent. It has to be quality, but consistent comes before quality, right? That's just how the consumer's mind works. Develop special group prospect list. These are some examples. Residents of your selected subdivision or neighborhoods, persons of influence, common referral sources, retirees, singles, the elderly, local retailers, local finance institutions. The list goes on and on. As a little bit of insight, when I asked in the past weeks, build your database, make sure it's open, make sure it's working, get a farm in Cupertino, Sunnyvale, or Santa Clara, at least 500 people, and then we're gonna, in this week and next, get you positioned to send your first piece, and then build you a calendar of sending it regularly each time. It's just going to be generic to start. It's building the base. As we move forward in it, the first one just is, hey, the market's hot, something generic, says, my name is Robert, I work at Intero, I'm a realtor, something like that. But eventually, we'll start breaking down your farm, and we'll start looking for move up, move outs. We'll start looking for investors. We'll start looking at non-owner occupieds. We start building these things. We'll look in your farm. We'll look at the retailers around your farm. That'll become part of your farm. What are the businesses that are there? Who works there? Who communicates in there? That'll open up channels into other areas. So when we're going through this process right now through Surge, it may seem basic. I've heard a lot of that. I've heard like, well, it's simple. It's for newer agents. And I kind of smiled to myself, right? Having built $1 million agents. Those agents who are not $1 million agents don't have these base. Those agents who aren't selling $100 million in real estate a year don't have these bases. They do parts of it, but they don't do it consistently. They haven't built it to be self-sufficient and self-organized. And so in some sense, they're right. This is so basic. Yes, it is. But example I would give you, my oldest daughter just learned to drive about 1.5 years ago. My next daughter is learning to drive. And when I start training them, I teach them the basics, right? I don't even let them turn on the car. I just sit in the car and I say, set your mirrors, set the chair so you can see, look around, and then I get out and I walk around to make sure that they can see me in the blind spots or where the blind spots. I have them point to the lights. I have them point them to all the knobs. Never even turn on the car, right? And I tell them, these are the things that when you become an experienced driver have to be second nature. You don't even think about it. There's so many things to think about when you're driving. If you're driving down the 101 in rush hour traffic at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour for some of you, and you have to look over your shoulder to see if you can turn left, if you didn't remember to always adjust your mirrors before you get in the car and make it second nature, then it's not going to work. If you have to always look for how do I turn on my windshield wipers when it starts, then you have that split second where you're not paying attention to the road, and by nature, the fact that it's raining, it's a more dangerous area, you're not there, right? So it's the same concept here. I don't care if you're brand new or you've been doing this for 20 years. If you haven't done this at this level, it's not new. You didn't build it, so you have to go back and build it. I talk to people, even successful agents who have been in a farm for 10, 12 years, and I ask, what do you do with local retailers? And like, well, nothing. Well, why not? That's an easy way to expand your farm because people live in your farm, but people come in and shop from different areas. So little tangent there, but don't forget this, build your base. And yes, we're starting with a simple 500 home farm in our core areas. And yes, it's basic, and yes, it's simple, and yes, you've done it before, but you've never done it like this. And you never built this muscle, so it's just like driving. You concentrate on the hard things because the easy things are second nature to you. You've already built a system. You've already built the model. You never have to think about it. You put oil in it once in a while. You put gas when you need it. You do maintenance, but you're not working on it every day. You don't wake up every day to get in the car and say, how do I turn on the lights? How do I put on the blinkers? How do I do all these simple things? You want to concentrate on the hard things. Watch for danger. Watch for where you're going. Know your environment, things like that, right? A couple more types of prospecting: phone calls, door-to-door, classified ads, property magazines, direct mail, which is what we're going to be doing. Personalized for your audience. Refine your mailing list so that you have a target market. Avoid ads that compete with your direct mail message. Automate your mailings and have more time for clients. Assistance may help. This is why we created the MIT in our offices. All right, prospecting tools, postcards, recruiting cards, presentation folders, for sale by owner brochures. More examples of, we will add this complexity, we will add these layers to your basic farms that we're starting in Surge. And then again, it'll be a muscle, it'll be a system, it'll be a model that you internalize and know, and you can take to any farm that you start in the future. One of the agents in my past office that I took from zero to over $80 million in sales, it was simply this. We picked a farm, a small farm, and he started it and he did really, really well. And then we had a plan from the beginning of all the money he made in this farm over the first 2 years that it took him to become the dominant agent in that farm, he allocated to future farms. And then I told him, what you will find is once you perfect your strategy in this 500 unit farm, you can build it into your next 500, your next 1,000, your next 2,000. And so eventually he had around a 4,000 unit farm in different areas and got to $80 million in sales within 6 years of starting in real estate. How? Simple farming. The simple, basic, boring farm that we're starting in Surge, he started. All right. So promote yourself. Remember that. How to make yourself stand out from your competition. What is your unique identifier? And increase your revenue through the effective use of personal promotional tools. Tell prospects who you are, where you are, and what sets you apart. Have a business plan. Again, if all you have to say is, I'm more enthusiastic and I work harder than anyone else, that's okay. Some people don't even say that. Eventually, you'll get better. You'll have more skills. You'll have a niche. You'll have more things to promote, but you have to promote something. Use personal promotional brochures, postcards, and flyer sheets that illustrate your unique abilities and expertise. Remember, I hope you pick with me, Cupertino, Santa Clara, and Sunnyvale, because at the very least, I know each one of you can say, nobody sells more real estate in these areas than my office. So I knew that you would immediately have something to promote yourself with in these farms. Choose a consistent design. That's what we have Maxa for. You don't have to think about it, what color, what font, just consistent, message it out, your name, your phone number, your email, your website. All right, and there you go. This is what you want to do, right? You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to think that you're the expert. You know, people react to this color. I still remember 20 years ago, NBC decided that everything that people reacted to the color yellow. So they started putting yellow in everything that they did, right? And did it work? Did it not work? I don't know. I watch a show if I like it, not because the background is yellow. And that's what you need to be aware of. People don't choose you because you have the killer, the best flyer, the best brochure. It's consistency, it's messaging, it's all of those things, and that's what's most important, all right? So brochures, postcards, flyers, sheets, business cards, all of these things, they have to have a plan. They have to be organized. The less time you put into creating these and the more time you put into building systems that automate it, the better you're going to do. You're going to free up more time to do other things. All right, staying in touch. How to make your past customers your best prospects. Stay in touch with your current client base, as they can lead to referrals and future transactions, whether they stay in the area or not. Including your target audience, past clients, referral resources, and relocation officers of large corporations. When staying in touch with couples, be sure to acknowledge each individual, all right? Simple, easy things. A lot of people are moving out of the Bay Area. Guess what? When they leave the Bay Area, they still have friends and family here. So don't think because they're no longer here that they're no longer in your SOI, that you shouldn't be communicating with. You should, absolutely. Tools to help you stay in touch: greeting cards, birthday, anniversary, Christmas, stay in touch cards, gifts for Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, or simply for stopping by and saying hello. Note cards. Remember we talked about building your database, putting the notes. knowing when their birthday is, knowing when their kids are going to graduate, knowing all these life things, so that when they come up, you can send these anniversaries, Christmas cards, stay in touch cards, congratulations on your child's graduation, on promotions, things like that. Very personalized. This is when you start to differentiate. Everybody sends a flyer. Everybody sends, I can sell your house for more. I'm the best realtor on the planet. But when you do that, and then you add these personal touches, that's what differentiates you from everyone else. That's what's going to get them to call you first. And then finally, after 2 years, after 3 years, after 5 years, they're going to sell. Be accessible and be found. Technology can help you do this. Clients want a real estate agent who is accessible and available for immediate answers to all their questions. Ensure that your customers can reach you by cell phone, at home, at the office, or via email. Now, remember, that doesn't mean you have to be a slave to it. That doesn't mean that if you get an email or a text or a call at 12 midnight, you have to pick it up. Set your phones to, if you don't want to answer, that you'll respond right away. Set your email reminders to that. If you're not going to pick up at a certain time of day, have that programmed so that that is a response. If I call you and the phone rings and rings and rings, and then it goes to voicemail and it says, this voice box is full, that's not a response, right? You got to be aware of that. Use one phone number for your cell phone, home, and office so prospects can reach you easily and quickly. That's very common today, not a big problem. Respond to email and voice message promptly. By the end of the day is not promptly. Have an immediate response. If you have an iPhone, I know I have an iPhone, when someone's calling you and I call me and I'm on the phone with someone else or I'm talking to someone else, as a simple, I can keep talking with the person I'm talking to and click on the right button and it'll give me, can I call you later? I am busy right now. And boom, sends them a quick text. That's a response. I wasn't ignoring them. I was responsive. You have to work on these things. All right, your farming strategy. This best resource is Orange Coast Title. They know our plan. They know the things that we've modeled out. It's a really easy resource for you, but we'll go over it anyway, right? Introducing yourself to your area. In order to become known and remembered, your goal should be to reach the property owners in your area 24 times a year. To reach means to make contact. That's whether by letter, note, flyer, pamphlet, telephone, or personal contact. This means in your area of 1,000 properties, you need to make 24,000 contacts a year. This may seem to be a huge undertaking, but if you break it down as follows, the system is manageable. Using a map, cut out your farming area into 25 zones of approximately 40 properties. Plan your strategy as follows. Introductory campaign, 8 contacts per year. Monthly pamphlets or brochures, 12 contacts per year. Quarterly newsletter, of course, 4 contacts per year. Again, don't try to do this on your own. Sit with your OCT rep and they can map this out. They can map out the zones for you and they can set up the calendar for you. Here's a chart to set your goal, your introductory campaign, which is what we're going to do first in our new surge campaigns. And it's broken down into 10 weeks. First week, flyer to zone 1. Second week, flyer to zone 2, call to zone 1. Third week, flyer to zone 3, call to zone 2, door knock, we can't do that yet, in zone 2, and so on. On this basis, you can do 2 campaigns a year, each campaign lasting 25 weeks, resulting in you contacting each property owner 8 times. This seems simple. This seems like it's a no-brainer. I don't have to write it down. I can remember to do this. Just knock, call. You will not if you don't have it organized. The whirlwind of your day will knock this campaign out every single time. Write it down, put it down in your calendar, put in your CRM, practice and work with your OCT rep so that they help you build it and it's done. It's set up, everything is easy. 24,000 touches in 12 months. Even a 1% contact rate is going to give you great opportunities in your farm. When farming doesn't work, it's not because you don't do the hard things, it's because you don't do the easy things. Easy doesn't mean simple. Easy things built that are not built out into your schedule, that are easily knocked out by the whirlwind of your business and your life, become hard, and that's where you have to do and think about. Okay, so this is where I want to stop today, because I want you to think about, for the rest of the day and the rest of the week, the importance, the ease of building a farm, working with a dedicated partner that understands your goals, understands the model, understands the system. Is it simple? Yes. Is it basic? Yes. But again, unless you're in the top 1 or 2% of your field, you've not likely done this properly. You haven't built these easy to remember, easy to execute, fundamentally sound campaigns. It doesn't mean you haven't farmed. It doesn't mean you don't farm now, but you likely don't do it properly. When you start getting into the more advanced things, the more advanced items, you'll learn to do that, add it, and make you a more successful farmer. But you can't break down these things. Right now, when people are saying on the check-ins, I don't have anyone else to call, or I got my farm, but it only has a limited number of phone calls. And I remind them, we haven't talked to you in this campaign about calling your farm yet. All we did is say, sit down with your rep, get a list of 500 addresses, and that's it. There's a method, there's a process, there's a timing to this. Once you have the addresses, then you can mail the first introductory campaign. Now, if you pick 500 farms, 500 homes in a farm, and you say, well, I can't afford to mail 500 pieces a month, okay, then we dial back. But that's the first step. That is how you build a successful farm, with this first step. So the way we're learning right now, doing it by Zoom, doing it kind of piecemeal, I have to be patient. You have to be patient, because there is a process, there is a system. I'm not telling you that this is revolutionary. I'm not telling you that no one else knows how to do this. I am telling you that very few people actually do this when everyone knows, or have access to know, that this is how a farm works. Some of you work in farms for years and years and years and don't get any business. And my first question is, have you looked at what you're doing and how you're doing it? Because you should always be measuring. You haven't built out the working with the retailers in your farm. You haven't worked out how to go from communicator to, from marketer to communicator. You haven't worked out how you call people not just to list their home, but you call people to create champions for you. You call people to find out, do they know anyone else thinking of buying or selling? So these are things that are not costly. There's not a lot of money involved in that. Down the road, what you want to do is build these fundamental building blocks where you'll earn your first income from these farms. When you earn that first income from these farms, then you can put in some cost, some money into, okay, now I can get a dialer, or now I can get access to the rest of the phone numbers. All right. So sorry I went a little bit over time today. Wanted to get in that last little piece. Reminder, I think we have a office meeting today, so we didn't schedule script practice this morning. We will do the 5 o'clock check-in. We will get back to script practice tomorrow, and then calling for an hour collectively tomorrow. You can call on your own today if you have the time. But I hope this helped. We're going to focus on marketing to get listings tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And that'll be a little more involved. And I hope you all join us tomorrow. Thank you for your time this morning, and have a great and productive day. And we'll see you all at 5 for the check.